Hello and welcome to the Video Game Book Club. This month we took a really long time to read.
Assassin's Creed Origins Desert Oath by Oliver Bowden, but not by Oliver Bowden because that's a pen name.
How many guys are Oliver Bowden?
Oliver Bowden is two guys, but this is the last book that Oliver Bowden wrote. And then after this, they wrote under their
Their
actual names.
actual names?
Yeah.
Interesting. Because I know Oliver Bowden wrote like a lot of the older ones, and those are all online on archive for free if you want to read those. Except for this one. So
This is from 2017, so it's a newer.
title. They don't have this is one of them that doesn't have an audiobook in the US. Kind of like the last one we read, Odyssey. You're picking all the Assassin's Creed books that like don't have audiobooks. Minus the Magus conspiracy.
You bought this one for me.
Origins your favorite.
Official prequel. It is my favorite. Bayek Siwa is he is definitely my favorite assassin, and his wife Aya kicks ass.
So why is he your favorite assassin?
I think all kids have either a dinosaur phase or an Egyptian phase.
I think there's more.
Well, there's like the horse phase too.
Okay, I guess the horse phase counts because like I think about those like Egyptology books
Yeah,
or
those are
the
cool.
like fairy book or dragon. Dragons was the other one that kids
Yeah.
were really into.
Dragons, fairies,
Just dragon and dinosaur,
dinosaurs.
I think
Yeah.
they kind of meld.
And then, yeah, a lot of people. So I like Egypt history. I had an Egyptian phase as a youngin.
How long was your Egyptian phase?
Not very long.
It was just when you were learning it in like elementary
Yeah.
school, and you're like, "Yeah, this is tight."
So cool. It's like sixth grade history.
Time to get an Ankh necklace.
I do actually have an Ankh necklace, but that is because I cosplayed as Death from the Sandman series. Yeah, so I do have an Ankh. I also the story I think is really good, and Bayek has a good character arc. It does go back and forth in time, the game and the book.
In the book.
So in the game, you are coming back from being gone for a long time. You are a Medjay, which is a protector.
And if you're listening to the audiobook with text to speech like I was,
no
it's
audiobook available
Medjay. So I'm going to be
Medjay.
pronouncing stuff wrong. I'm
Medjay.
giving you advance warning.
Yeah. So it also takes place. The game is in the time period of Cleopatra when Julius Caesar shows up. So, and there is
You gotta have big names to kill.
as well. You get to go see the tomb of Alexander the Great. So it is an important historical time period, like many of the Assassin's Creed. It's more of an open world than the previous Assassin's Creed game. This is like the reboot that they did. You have a new modern timeline, although I hate her. So annoying.
This is what like Odyssey and Valhalla was based around.
Yeah,
right?
so Origin comes first, and then Odyssey was the second one, but Odyssey technically takes place before Origins. And if you play the DLCs, which the DLCs for Origins was the best of the three. Like, I still have not finished the DLCs for Valhalla because I just don't care. Vikings do not make very good secret ninja people, assassins. They're very loud. But if you play the DLCs for Origins, you find out that Cassandra is Aya's like great grandmother. And Cassandra is related, or I guess it depends on which one you played as, her or her brother. But Cassandra and what's that guy's name?
Alexia?
Alexia. He goes a little over the top. They were related to Leonidas. So that was about the Peloponnesian War and then the Greco-Persian War. And then in Origins, that is about the kind of the downfall of Egypt because you have...
Does the downfall of Egypt have to do with them not wanting to believe in the gods anymore? Aya talks about that in the book where she's like, yeah, I'm not really a gods person.
It has to do with the Romans. So the Egyptians and the Greeks have like a volatile history as well. But then the Greek society kind of dies, as all societies do. And then the Romans take over. And the Romans were using the Egyptians for grain. And that's where they were getting most of their grain. And they brought in different political things, but they also are polytheistic. And a lot of, if you look at Herodotus is also a character in
Herodotus.
Herodotus in Odyssey. He was a historian. He talks about how a lot of the Greek myths may have come from Egypt. So everything is all tied together.
They talk about the Greeks in this book.
Yes, they use drachma, which I'm like, this is not the right time period for that, because they wouldn't. Drachma is a Greek coinage, and they wouldn't really be using that. But in they talk a little about this is like the dying part of the Greeks' influence in Egypt, but Egypt itself, even under Cleopatra, was a huge force to be reckoned with. But when Cleopatra dies,
I was told this was probably like way before this though, when like the sea people took over and would like raid places, that Egypt was the only one who didn't get raided because they were so
Egypt has a really long history that you learn a little bit about it in school, but then we also don't learn like anything really about a lot of African history, but
just Egypt,
which they have a like. And they talk about this in the art book that I have as well, but there's a famous quote that Cleopatra, the time period between us and Cleopatra is shorter than the time period between Cleopatra and the building of the Great Pyramids. So in
That's
relative
wild.
history, Cleopatra is still
How many years?
newer.
You know?
Not off the top of my head. It's we're talking she's closer to CE, and the Great Pyramids may be older than what we think it is. There's a lot of stuff that's been coming out archaeologically that things are like, oh dang. But yeah, Bayek, I like his character arc.
Which he doesn't have in this book.
He does not. This book.
They say that he does,
Yeah.
but he does not.
He does not. I was really hoping that this book was about the time period between when his son dies and he like goes off on like a walkabout kind of, but he's really going to find information about the order. And, like, he kills one of the order people and comes back.
More interesting.
Yes. That's what I wanted. This is not that. So, this is Bayek at the age of 15. And it's about him becoming the Medjay, which... so, this book actually came out a couple weeks before the game came out. There are some non-consistent things within this book and the game, which I'm... like, it's not really the author's fault, although it is kind of the author's fault, because if this is an official prequel, I hope that someone at Ubisoft would have read it before it came out and been like,
they don't.
They don't have time because it's that crunch culture, but...
Yeah, they just send out to their authors, like, write this.
Yeah. There is one author listed for the game, which I can't believe. I can't believe one person writes.
Oh, like one of these authors?
No, when I looked up, like, who wrote for the game... There's only one author listed.
Really?
Yeah. Of course, it was on Wikipedia, but...
There's no way.
I was like...
But they have so many, like, side quests and stuff that are written by different people.
I'm like, if it's one person, that's impressive. And I think that's also what we don't talk about enough in literature is that the freaking video game authors need to get a little bit more credit, because they write in detail, and I mean, some of the dialogue is dumb.
Usually they like are assigned to a specific character,
and
or
a side quest
who they're writing for. There was an issue with that with Mass Effect, because
Garbage.
They weren't consistent with who they gave the character to between games. So like you might got Garrus in like 1, but you didn't get him in 3, so he might be a little bit different.
But then somebody else is writing him. Like research, then you gotta like go back to the original source.
But you always make
somebody else's
the character a little bit of yourself.
True.
So like, you know, now this Garrett's gonna be a little different than he was.
I feel like that's someone not doing their
Maybe
research.
I don't feel like Garrett's changed that much, so I'm just using it as an example. I think they did fine. I think there are definitely some characters in like Mass Effect and stuff where they have this where I'm like, you're a little different.
Why are you being so aggressive?
Yeah, what's your deal?
Yeah. But yeah, if it is just one author, because the same author wrote Valhalla and for the video game, and I was like, that's super complicated.
Do you think it's just like they wrote the outline?
There's probably a main author, like there usually is someone who is like the outline of the main story, and then obviously you're gonna have different people for like the DLC.
I think you're definitely sending it off for people for side quests.
You have to
and stuff.
There's
That's like
no
the
way you can write all that.
Team.
But that. I mean, the storytelling in video games, because you have to tell a story for like, some of these games are like 100 hours. And if you
have like companions and they all have their own side quest story.
That may or may not affect the original
story.
You may not get to them.
Yeah.
That's like
They have to take into account that you might not even do that.
Fallout was to trigger some things, and then sometimes it affects the game,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh, that's so complicated. So if it is one person, impressive.
I think I saw a thing where Obsidian was talking about the outer worlds, their outer worlds.
Mm.
And they were like, oh yeah, here's our side quest like tracking thing. And they open up this big computer and it's like a bar, just a bunch of lines headed everywhere. And they're like, here's where this could take you for dialogue trees specifically. They're like, if you say this, it goes here, and then it goes here, and then it goes there, and then it goes there, and then it goes there, and then it goes there.
I mean, that's for programming purposes as well, but
Yeah.
it's like, that's so complicated to have to sit and like think about and then be like, oh, okay, I guess.
If they say this, they're locked out of this and stuff like that.
Well, also in Horizon, right? You can choose to be, it's the brain, the heart,
Yeah.
or the whatever the other one is.
That's like in Dragon Age 2 where you could be
You could be a
diplomatic, sassy, or aggressive.
Aggressive.
I liked this because like the sassy middle one where like you're still being diplomatic, but like you're kind of an ass.
So I think we're in agreement that video game books need to stop being written before the game comes out, because who's
Or
reading these
do
books
better research.
before the game comes out?
I think you should get better authors.
True. I would also.
I think I don't think these people really care. And
There's also like no detail as well, because the world and the characters and all that stuff is already built. Did we get any description?
No, I
of
didn't get
any
any
of these
description.
characters?
I didn't know what they look like.
Except for a scar. It's like a scar. But I'm like, where's the scar?
Have never played the game, or Origins. So I was
She
just going
tried
off of
to help me. There's one trophy I don't have.
yeah. All I've done is play the chariot racing.
I cannot get that freaking chariot. I am the worst when it comes to any driving thing in any games.
So I just took a guess in my brain about what these people look like. I have no idea. Also, like reading these video game books, like they do villains terribly.
They're very
not all the
one-dimensional.
time, but a lot of the time they're like, I'm just evil for evil's sake. I just like killing people. I don't know what to tell you.
And then at the end, we're gonna try to have a change of heart.
Maybe, but it's like so dumb.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm just a bad guy. I don't know what to tell you.
So the main villain in this one is
Duh.
Bayek, right? Is that what we're gonna?
Bayek, yeah.
Yeah, there's other.
Gonna rip
There
it apart.
are. I just wrote it on my Goodreads review. There are four. No, I think there's 5 mini plots going on at the same time.
When they introduced Bayek in Act 2, because our villain doesn't show up until
He's technically in Act
2,
1.
technically, yeah.
But you just don't know who he is. He
is and I was like, God, we're
glint
gonna
in the distance.
We're gonna have to switch between perspective. At least we switched between him, like, and Bayek more than like when we were reading Star Wars, the Fallen Order novel, and they had the Inquisitor be like the same type of villain as Bayek, where they're like, I just hate Jedi, I don't know what to tell you. And they switched between him like twice in the whole novel. So we don't know what his deal was really.
Yeah, so we get just a couple point of views. And again, there's 70 chapters in this book, and that includes the epilogue, but the chapters are like
69.
I know, right? Of course there is. The chapters are like 2.5 pages.
Yeah, they're really short.
I'm like, you could have combined like 3 of these chapters together.
There was 2 chapters that were like super long, and that was it.
They should have been. There's like they're wired.
It's weird. I don't know why they cut them like that.
It was, and this book definitely needs an editor, because I would have rearranged like half the stuff in this novel.
Yeah, I would have
I think it would have been a way better story.
Shorter.
It would have been shorter. It would have made more sense.
I'd say add more descriptive language, please, to describe our characters and environment we're in. It makes me nervous for the next Oliver Bowden books that we read.
There is no more Oliver Bowden, because remember, this is the last one.
No, but like prequel ones.
Oh.
The other ones that actually have like the audiobooks that I can acquire, because apparently Assassin's Creed's weird and they're like only in the UK.
Which is weird, because I think this team is out of Quebec. So I'm like, I guess you could go out in Canada.
Can I get it in French? I'll try my best to listen.
That would be interesting. But
I accidentally bought our Far Cry 5 novel in French. Started listening to that, and I was like, I can only guess like what? I guess I can get like a couple of words here and there, and I'm like, I think that he's hungry and he trapped a rabbit, but I'm not sure.
Je femme.
All right,
high school French coming at you.
Yeah. I didn't get into advanced French, so very.
Hey, me neither. All right.
Oh yeah, we didn't read the back of the book yet. We just went off.
Do you want to talk about what you gave it first before
I gave it because I like Fable's rating system better. So
okay, just tangent. I think Goodreads should order their stars.
I think so too.
I think a 1-star should be, I freaking hate this
I
book.
freaking hate this book.
2 stars should be like, it's not for me. Like, I need
Okay,
it. It's not
fair
for me.
enough.
Like, it's not bad, but it's like, I didn't like it because it's not for me. Like, I put several that I put 2 stars because I'm like,
2 is like I didn't like it, but it's not problematic for
Yeah.
me because we've read some iffy books.
I think 3 is like, it was okay. Like,
Yeah,
3 is in the middle,
it's
right?
okay.
It's okay. Come go. 4 is like, I liked it. And 5 is like, this book is rad. I loved it.
Yeah.
That's how the rating stars. And they should be half stars too.
There should be halfies because I gave it, I feel in my heart, a 2.5.
So I also gave it a 2.5. I gave it a 2 on Goodreads.
I gave it a 3 on Goodreads.
Because of the things that we'll
up.
talk about at the end of the book. And so there are 2 things at the end of the book. One has to do with the Order and one has to do with Aya that I was like,
I was thinking about the other Assassin's Creed book that I gave a 2 because I hated it. The Magus Conspiracy. Magnus.
oh yeah.
And I was like, I hated my time with that, like
was
almost
hard to
all
read.
the way through. This one,
This one actually was a quick read once you got
part
into it.
3, I feel like it started to pick up, and I was
Yeah.
like, okay, yeah, I can get behind this. That's why I gave it a 3 in Goodreads. But it's really a 2 point.
I'm just kidding.
That's his 15.
No, he's got to be older than this. They don't say
Look
how
ripped
long
he
they are.
is.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we're looking at the cover.
The cover is by a Siwa, and he's pulling out his sword. He's in front of a pyramid.
Yeah.
Probably, I think it's the Great Pyramid of Giza.
I mean, it's a really pretty piece of art.
Yeah, it looks cool, but
Yeah.
spent all that time on the outside and not on the inside.
He's kind of a wet blanket character, to be honest.
He is really quick to anger, but he also he feels things very deeply, and I think that he's a very rounded character, and I like that. And then in the game they show you, they do go back in time a little bit, so you see a lot of stuff with his son because there's a one where you have to align the constellations, and that whole time he's talking to his son. Because he's teaching his son how to be a Medjay, so he's teaching about the stories of the constellation and giving advice to his son, and it's very, very sweet. And you see what a nice guy he is, and then the relationship that he has with Aya is
He does seem like a very nice guy.
yeah. All right, so this is the official prequel. Before Assassin's Creed Origins, there was an oath. Egypt, 70 BCE. A merciless killer stalks the land. His mission to find and destroy the last member of an ancient order, the Medjay, to eradicate the bloodline. In peaceful Siwa, the town's protector abruptly departs, leaving his teenage son, Bayek, with questions about his own future and a sense of purpose he knows he must fulfill. In reality, he's like, dude, where'd my dad go? And because he tells no one what he's doing and where he's going.
Dips.
Yeah. Bayek sets off in search of answers. His journey takes him along the Nile and through an Egypt in turmoil, facing the dangers and the mysteries of the Medjay's path. I don't really feel like Egypt was in turmoil in this book, except for
I mean, they were complaining about the Greeks, I think.
yeah, and
That was about it.
Thebes was there was an issue. There's an issue with the old gods, new gods.
Yeah,
But at this time, the Greeks are no longer in power, so I don't get it.
Because I listened to the audio, they said Medjay, but it's Medjay.
Yeah.
The Medjay people were protectors of the rich people, the emperor. What was their deal?
Well, there's the Phalakes or Phalakes, or I think it's the Phalakes, that's who you fight and that is a Greek term. Actually, here's a little history for you.
Okay.
Hieroglyph is Greek.
Oh.
It's a Greek term, but they're like policemen. So back in the day, before we have the judicial system that we have now, and this also happened in Europe, where you would have, if you had an issue with someone, there was a traveling person that came to your town, and once a month or once a year, you would go before them, and they
Traveling sheriff.
Yeah, that's kind of what it, traveling judge. Even that happened in Salem witch trial stuff, but you would have to wait just to be this person stole my land, or this person killed my brother, and then they would see to it for the
interesting.
Yeah, for they were protectors of the peace.
Justice.
Yeah. Fight for justice.
So
but they also protected the temples too.
Is that what Medjays did?
Medjays. The Medjays is probably Medjays, and we're just
That's what they
English
said in
spot,
text
isn't
to
it?
speech.
Because
So
it's Medjay.
yeah, Jay.
Yeah, so they would protect the temples and then they would protect like the towns. There used to be like a bunch of them. And
Yeah,
then it evolves over time like everything does.
because everyone was complaining that they're old school, like we don't need them anymore.
Yeah.
But like I don't think they're doing anything.
They're like almost like mercenary soldier type of deal, but you don't hire them. They have their own
They have their own duty.
ethics.
Yeah,
It says this inadequate. They don't really give you all that much
they
information.
don't. Other than like Egypt in turmoil, I guess it's only in turmoil in terms of like out with the old, in with the
I
new.
think Thebes was having issues too because we go to Thebes
Hmm.
and the priestess is like, oh,
Oh yeah, that's right. They talk about that for like
a hot second.
second.
Yeah. And then it's like on to the next. There's a lot of misdirection.
Yeah.
There's just too much going on. They needed to simplify it and then put more detail into it. Because again, if this comes out before the game, you're not going to see all the stuff that you would in the game.
And the only person on the cover is Bayek, and I don't think he's 15. I don't think
that would
he's
make
15 on
him
this
what,
cover.
like a freshman in high school?
I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, got a little baby face.
Anyway, we're gonna spoil this entire book.
Get ready, and I think we're gonna move kind of quickly, just like the chapters. So
Yeah, I didn't take a lot of notes, so it's all on her.
and I'm gonna butcher all the names.
Me too, because I had text to speech. So
All right, here we go. There are 3 parts to this book.
yes.
So we're in part 1, and my first question is, who is Imsaf? Because that's what it starts with, and I'm like, I don't know who that person is.
I don't know who that person is either.
He has a wife and a son, and then he dips. Because someone is following him, and so he's got to get away, and
Imsaf leaves his family in Himbano on a mission.
yeah, because he knows someone is after him, and so he's gonna leave his family with instructions, though, because we find out later that he was in Medjay.
Do you think? Well, he dies, doesn't he?
Yes.
Oh, well, then never mind. Because I was like, maybe he's that old man.
No, that he is part of they're part of the order. And so someone is following him. So he goes to like a desert house to try to set up a shot to get the person that's following him.
Is this just to like set up the scene that the Medjay are getting attacked?
Yes.
Like that's all this
This
is.
will eventually kick off why Bayek's dad leaves. But he's like, someone's following me. And so I'm going to leave my house and I'm going to go to this like desert house to set up like a sneak attack. Bayek is that killer, though we don't find that out till later. But it's kind of obvious. So it's like the killer woke at dawn. So Imsaf shoots at the person that's following him, but it turns out to be a decoy because he the killer sneak attacked the sneak attack.
Too good.
And then the killer goes to the house and kills the wife and son. They try to attack him, but they're not very quick. Bayek killed a merchant with a donkey. This is like back and forth stuff because it's like he shoots at someone, but then it's like back in time.
Yeah, I was confused. I didn't.
Previous that day, like he had already killed his wife and son, and then which also doesn't make sense later on in the story where he's like, "Oh, I'm fine until you show up," because he wants to kill me in front of you.
For the longest time, I thought this was just like Bayek's family for like a little bit. I was like, oh, his mom dies. Like, yeah. I'm confused.
I feel like this was again, if I was editing the book, I would put the information about Bayek and Rhea before this.
Yeah, I probably
that they're
would do
after
that
the
too. I wouldn't
Medjay.
even put this on here.
No,
This is unnecessary, and it's very confusing.
If you're not already confused, let me unconfuse you here.
Okay.
So what is happening is Imsaf is a Medjay. He has a feeling someone is following him, so he sets up a sneak attack. The killer name is Bayek, and he is hired by the order. Bayek goes to the house where Imsaf is supposed to be at. He's not there. His wife and son are there, so Bayek killed them because he's supposed to get rid of everyone like closely related, all the bloodlines.
Yeah.
And then he hires a merchant, kills the merchant, takes the horse, and has him on a horse
as a decoy.
Mm-hmm. And Imsaf shoots the decoy, thinks that he got the killer, but then Bayek ends up killing Imsaf and takes his medallion. And that's chapters 1 and 2.
Now we finally get to Bayek.
Yes. That day, the day our lives changed. We're in Siwa with Bayek and Aya. Aya is all about Alexandria because that's
where her
where
family's
her
from.
parents are. And she's like, they're so smart. They have a big fat library and a lighthouse.
Why did they leave her there?
Because she's part Siwan and part Alexandrian, so she's staying with her aunt, who she
Yeah,
loves. I guess
but why?
it's like parents in big cities
Too busy for
or
your kid?
countries, they want. Yeah, I don't know.
Oh,
It's
why
weird.
would she be there? She's like,
Maybe
I
it was
can't
a
wait to go to Alexandria's library someday. And I was like, why don't you? Your parents are there.
yeah, maybe it was a bad influence on her in that city, and so they
I,
moved her
I
to
don't
the
know why
country.
she's over there, but okay.
Yeah. Also, this does not sound like Aya. Alexandra is where the whole world meets. That's not doesn't sound like her as a character. We
Well,
get
she is young.
yeah. Sabu is Bayek's father, and he's leaving Siwa because he gets a message. We still don't know what that message is, like
No,
during the whole book. Then we have Rabiai, who is like friends with Sabu, and she's like the all-knowing old woman, and so everyone goes to her to be like, why did Sabu leave? And she's like, I don't know. It might have something to do with this other person. And I was totally confused this whole time because I'm like, how far before the game is this? Because we don't get any like dates and stuff or
it should
ages
be. Well, when does the
until
game take
later.
place?
With when
So this is 70, right?
yeah, when Julius Caesar shows up to Egypt. Then we get this whole backstory of there's this guy named Mena, and he was a tomb robber, and he was defeated by Bayek's father but not killed. And so
Okay, well, it says that the game takes place in 49 to 43 BC.
okay, so it's
This
30
is
years.
70 BCE.
So that's BCE as well, right? So what was it? One more time.
49 to 43.
So it's like 21 years.
Okay.
So that means Bayek is like 37.
Damn.
He's old.
He's old.
For a time period. Okay, so Mena was a tomb robber who was defeated by Bayek's father. We find out that Siwa's protector is the town, and it says Mekadi was at the very end, and I was like, what is this? Why is this not Medjay? What is happening?
I don't know.
I was so confused this whole first part. Rabbi is the lady that they go to find out what happened to Sabu. She's older than Bayek's mom. I don't know why that's important.
Just gotta know that.
I was like, why is that
Hot
important?
fact.
And then we have Kensa is Bayek's Nubian friend, and she teaches Bayek how to do everything. And the Nubians are after Mena, so they're traveling as their tribe. They don't have like a home, so they wander off. In this Mena backstory, Bayek is 6, and he wakes up to a dude crawling in his window.
Oh, this was the Minna assassination
This
attempt?
is the Mena backstory. The mom like attacks the guy, and they are gonna rob the temple, and so Bayek's father foils the assassination, and this changes Sabu's mind about Bayek's training, and so he's not really training Bayek.
Yeah,
Although the Medjay is like a father-son thing.
for some reason.
Yeah. It's too dangerous.
I guess, but
But I think if you would train someone, they'd be better prepared for the danger that's coming at them anyways.
yeah, so
The whole Mena...
did he just think that like nothing bad was ever gonna happen? He's like,
I will be here forever.
his dad sucks.
Yeah.
Big anti his father.
Yeah.
Sabu? Is that his
Sabu,
name?
yeah.
I hate that guy.
So Bayek decides to go after the messenger who brought the note that sent his father away, then to try to go after his father. He's like, I don't know where he went. You could track the messenger, but you can't track your father?
I mean, I feel like because it's a messenger, I get it. Like you would.
But also, is that messenger
where he
reading the
is.
note?
He just remembers it. Just remembers every note he has ever read.
That it's like there's some plot hole, like big plot holes already.
He just says it out loud.
Yeah.
He's just the crier. Hear ye, hear ye! You have to leave now.
It's like literally what Twitter should have been. It's just voice messages.
It's a little telegram. And stop. Please leave your home. Stop.
Meet us here. So Bayek's mom doesn't want him to go. Duh.
Duh.
But he's made up his mind, and he also does not tell his girlfriend.
Nope.
He just dips.
It'd be too hard on him to tell her, so he's just gonna leave because he's a coward.
And I was like, is he walking?
I think so.
He's going to Zati. That's where the messenger is from. And he uses his survival skills that he learned when he was 6 to survive and hunt. That's information we get later. He makes it to Zati, but a little kid is following him.
It's Tuda.
Tuda is a little street urchin, and he's 10, and he's like, oh, you're looking for this? I know, I can help you.
He was super mean, though. Like, when he first met him, he was like,
this is my
square. You think you're better than me? You're, like, close to the same age as me. Anyway, can I have your food?
Yeah. This is when we find out that Bayek is 15.
Yes, he's 15.
And I was like, oh, dang, this is way before the game takes place. And then we end that chapter. We're on chapter 10, by the way. I did, as I was asked, blissfully unaware by the terrible mistake that I was making. So he is going to use Tuta to help him try to find the messenger. And that is a mistake.
Yeah.
Chapter 11 brings us to Sabu. Sabu is in the mother location. It was a 20-day journey, so we're just like skipping through. So it's been 20 days since he left.
Did Bayek leave like super soon after he left?
Yeah, he left like the next day. We have Sabbatset has great hearing. I'm like, I don't know who any of these people are. Heman is their master. So we're meeting with Sabbatset and Heman.
Oh, he was told to check on Imsaf.
The guy that's already dead.
Yeah, the guy's already dead from chapter 1.
Yeah. There is an old enemy, and Sabu has to investigate Imsaf, who we know is already dead. Back to Bayek. Tuda leads Bayek to a blue-eyed man, and they're exchanging drachma, which I'm like, no. And then it's a setup, but I was like, but for who? Because they're like, it's a setup. I'm like, for Tuda, for Bayek, for the merchant. It ends up being for both.
Yep.
Because Tuda's father shows up, and he's the setup, and he robs the messenger, but the messenger's like, no. The father stabs the messenger.
Yeah, and just takes his stuff.
Yeah. Messenger dies without telling Bayek what he wanted to know. So.
Well, he does, doesn't he? No, because like Bayek leans in, and the messenger does tell him. I know this. I remember reading that.
Chapter 13. He's like, oh yeah, I sent him a message. It's like, where is he?
Did he die right before he tells him? Is that the thing? Yeah, he passed out, but before he went, he whispered to me what the message said. It meant nothing to me.
It meant nothing.
So he did tell him, but he had no idea what it meant.
I put Bayek is starting.
Bayek also gets robbed, doesn't he?
Yeah. Bayek is starting his Assassin's Creed training, jumping from roof to roof, and he follows a blood trail because
he managed to stab the dad.
Yeah, he had to say it. Also, the dad's awful.
The dad beats his son and all that stuff, and his son's scared of him, and his son was like, "Don't hurt Bayek. He's actually like a good guy. Yeah, you know, Dad, don't do it, Dad."
And so he sneaks into the house of Tuta and his father.
And he grabs his stuff, and like Tutor's like crying. And Tutor sees him, and he's like, I'm just going to take this.
He's like, oh, this is going to be really bad for me when he wakes up.
Yeah. Tutor's like, I'm definitely going to die when he wakes up and sees all the stuff gone. So yeah. He gets a +1 now with his group.
The father wakes up and attacks Bayek, but Aya knocks him out.
Yep, Aya's here now.
She saves the day, like she should. Bayek tells Aya everything. She's like, why'd you leave? Like, why didn't you tell me? I'd be sad to live without you. So she tells a priest that Sabu, Bayek's dad, had killed for helping Mena. So we get more Mena backstory. I thought Mena was going to be way more important in the story than he actually was. He spent a lot of time here. So they're going to go to Thebes because that's where Tuta's mom is. His mom and sister, who he originally told Bayek were dead. He's like, oh yeah, they're in Thebes.
Yeah.
Or as my students like to call it, Thebes.
The bees.
The bees. Back to Sabu and Heman. Imsaf's farm is under new ownership. RIP. And it's missing a medallion, whatever that means, because they still didn't tell us about the medallion.
Nope.
We don't really find out about it till like later. And he's like, hey, Sabu, you need to train Bayek. Why now? There are developments in Alexandria. What are those developments?
Don't worry about it. It's none of your concern.
Because we're on part 2.
We are?
Yep.
Okay.
Several months earlier.
Oh boy.
Mer,
That was his buy-in time.
This is, I thought, should have been the first chapter. Or at least chapter 18 and 19 should have been the first two chapters because we meet Rhea. Raia. What did it sound like on your...
Probably Rhea. They did
Rhea.
actually a pretty good job. They actually said like Bayek and stuff. So
Ex-soldier Rhea is at the Library of Alexandria, and he's trying to meet someone, and he doesn't know where he is, and so he just listens to him cough as his Marco Polo, and that is Theotimos. Theotimos is part of the Order of the Ancients. I'm like, finally, they talked about the Order, and I'm like, the Order of what? It's the Order of the Ancients.
So this is Rhea?
This is Rhea.
Okay.
He's in the library. The order is century old. It started with Alexander at Memphis. And there is a scroll there that they're looking at. The script is written in Sikshat, which neither of them can read. But the one word that they can read says Medjay. And I'm like, that should have been the first chapter of the book.
Because that's the reason why they want to kill them?
Yes, because in a scroll says
Medjay, and they're like, oh, this is an evil scroll.
Yes.
Full of bad words. So
They're gonna get you.
Because I think when they talk to Bayan later, and Bayan's like, so why do you want me to do this? And then they're like, oh, can your contact read the scroll? And he's like, kind of.
They had to hire someone else to read it. And that ended up being who told Imsaf that someone was coming for him. Although that also didn't make sense. So, but yeah, the scroll basically says there's a group of people called the Medjay, and they're part of the old gods. And they are going to create a resistance. And so, you know what we should do? We should just kill them all first.
And their family members.
And all their family members. Because, nothing says, like, revenge quite like murdering kids.
Yeah. Well,
if they would have just
dead,
left it,
so.
it wouldn't have been an issue. There's only 5 of them.
There's not even that many. They wouldn't have even known.
No.
This is for no reason. But you know what? They hired the perfect guy at Bayan because he just loves to kill. He's like, you don't have to pay me any money. The killing is enough.
Yeah.
It's like an actual line he says in the book because he just loves it. Although, for a guy who really loves killing... He sure was really hesitant to take this job.
Yeah.
Because when,
trust Raya.
When Raya comes up to him, because Raya was like an ex-soldier.
Yeah, they were soldiers together.
So he's like, hey, buddy, I'm rich now. I'm a scholar and whatever, and I'm about to...
Also, like, it's like...
Get a promotion.
I'm part of the order. Have you heard of it? I'm like, the whole point of the order is that it's a secret society. What is happening?
I'm part of the secret order. Maybe you've heard of me.
We're creating a new Egypt, is what he said. So he goes to Fayum, which is where Bayan is. Bayan is known as the killer of men. But we also
That's so stupid, by the way. Killer of men?
Yeah. Versus killer of lions. I don't know.
I need you to kill women and children, too. Yes. Are you okay with that? And he's like, oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's right. Sounds great. We do get a little history of the Medjay in chapter 19. Sort of. It's like... He's like, oh, there was this secret order of people, not secret because they were protectors, and they protected the temples and the old god ways, and and that was it. It's like, and they have a code. It's like,
they're
okay,
just like temple guards.
And so he wants Bayan to kill all the Medjay and their family and take their medallion as proof, which would have been better to know when he like took the medallion beforehand. Which is why I'm like, these 2 chapters should have been the first chapters.
Yeah, they should have set that up and then have him kill that one other guy.
And then we get the backstory of how Bayan knows Rhea, which they're in Necratis, and they're protecting a boy whose name was Kenna? Quenna? And I was like, this has to be in the past, is the note that I put, because they don't tell you that. They are royal guards and protectors. And so basically there's this guy that is causing a riot because he's like, they're not paying us well.
Wait, Bayan remembers a time when Rhea saved his life while they're both guarding a princeling?
Yes.
He's a prince. What the
heck is a pharaoh.
Oh.
Yeah.
He's a young pharaoh.
They don't have, I guess they refer to them as princes.
I mean, yeah, that's close enough.
Yeah. And so Bayan, the people, they're like, let's get out of here with this princeling. And then the crowd turns on him because they're royal guards, and Bayek ends up like losing his weapon, and he covers the kid to protect him, and then Raya kills the guy that's gonna stab him. And so that apparently means that, oh yes, I will kill anyone you want me to kill
Because
because you saved my life.
he's so hesitant at first to do this job. For a guy who just loves killing.
Killer of men.
He was so, like, suspicious of this guy.
Ryan's an asshole.
Raya's an asshole. He's like, I'm going to get promoted. And he's like, what's in it for me, Raya? And he's like, well, when I become top head of Secret Order, I will...
Not so Secret Order, since I'm talking about
I will really owe you a favor. And I know that Bayek was like, come on.
I can get you an entry-level job.
He's like, that's not good enough. But, like, I guess he was like, you know what? I just like to kill people, so I guess it's okay. I'll just go do it, whatever.
Yeah, and the quote is, Bayek knew that one day he would be reminded of the fact that Raya had saved his life.
Oh,
and be
calling in a favor.
Honor bound to repay that debt.
He does have a lot of honor, in a way, because, you know, near the end when he's like, spoilers, he dies.
Yeah.
When he's dying, he's like, yeah, I'll tell you everything because you killed me.
Yeah, he does just
honor.
like tell everything, which is so weird.
I'll tell you my evil scheme because you killed me, and I respect that. But also, he like tortures people in very unhonorable ways.
Yeah, and he kills them in very particular ways too. So he's got a signature.
He's a freak.
He's
a weirdo. Nobody likes him.
I was like, duh, Bayek. We find out Bayek kills himself, which is like,
I already knew that.
Yeah, we already know that. Chapter 21. Aya and Bayek talk about Tuta because they left. Like he left them.
He's like, I'm gonna go to Thebes and I'm gonna take your horses and I'm gonna barter them.
Yeah.
For stuff, and I'm gonna find my family and then I'm gonna come get you.
So he leaves them there for 3 days.
Yeah.
And Bayek's like, I'm sure it's fine. Aya's like, that dude ditched us.
Aya was so unsure, like, day one, when he didn't show up.
This little kid who set you up to be robbed and murdered by his father, then is like, oh, trust me.
But he did show up after, like, day
on the
4.
4th day, he returned.
On the 4th day, God rested. And Tutor came back.
And then we're back to Bayek. He's in Alexandria, which he doesn't like. He gives Raya the medallion. He says these men are dangerous because definitely both the mom, the son, and the husband put up a fight. So he's like, oh, these people are dangerous. And Bayek wants to help get rid of these people. And then Rhea sounds, this was so creepy. I haven't forgotten that your natural preference is to work alone. Because he's like, I'm going to need more help to kill all of these Medjays. And Rhea tells him, I haven't forgotten that your natural preference is to work alone, even if you have.
Oh, damn.
So no, I'm not hiring anyone else. This is all you, dude. And you like to work alone, so do it.
It's like gaslighting him.
Do it, I know. And then Bayek's like, well, he was tipped off. You have a link, so you need to find that.
And he thinks it's the translator guy. So he's like, who translated that for you?
Because the other guy in the order is sick, quote unquote.
Oh. Boo, you
couldn't
whore.
Translate it. Must be sick. I'm like, anyone in the order that's sick means dead.
Not feeling well.
Mm-hmm. And in this chapter, this is 23, this is where we go to the translator, which I was so confused for this one. So he sneaks into this guy's house while he's sleeping. And then...
Yeah, and then he, like, interrogates him.
Yeah.
And then kills him. But then he's like... He says something about, like, it's good to do that while people still think that their loved ones are alive. Or something like that.
Yeah, so he's sleeping next to his wife. So he, like, puts his hand over the guy's head and was like, hey, come in the other room so we can chat. And then we hear the Falakes now stand where the Medjay once did. So Bayek's learning about the Medjays. And then Bayek kills him because he finds out that he was the leak. And that sent the message.
Also killed his wife.
And then he goes and stabs his wife in the eye while she's sleeping. And then lit them and their house on fire.
It was weird that I thought he said the line about, like, oh, it's good to, because I thought he was going to, like, interrogate the wife next. Yeah. And he was like, oh, it'd be good to pretend like that guy that I just killed is still alive. But no, he just freaking stabs her in the eye, immediately, doesn't even bother. It was weird.
It was weird. It's weirder with
it. It reminds me of when we read the first Mass Effect book and, like, Darren would just go torture people. Like, it would cut between
I have to get information.
actual plot and Saren just being a douche, killing people. It's like, oh, okay, so he's a bad guy. Cool.
Yeah. Chapter 24, Tuda found his family. They go to the priestess at the Temple of Karnak. I can't even read my own handwriting.
Priestess Nitocris.
Yeah, and they're like, oh, go talk to the priestess if you can, because she's not really seeing anyone. And then we learn that the people hate the Greeks. And the priestess is named Nitocris? Nitocris?
Nitocris.
Bayek's like, I'm here to see her. And the guards are like, nope, I don't think so. And she's like, oh, I'll talk to you.
But she doesn't say, like, anything.
Because she knows Bayek's dad. And she's like, oh, you're here? You're looking for your dad? Well, I'm going to need you to go find return after you find your Nubian friend. Because she's got information for you. I can't tell you. Like, but come back to me after you find out.
I'll mark it on your map, your plot marker.
This is where we get some information that the Ptolemy Aleuts are selling Egypt to the Romans. So this is a little time period thing. Ptolemy is Greek. He's actually Macedonian, and he is where Cleopatra is not fully Egyptian. That's why she's often light-skinned, because she's from the Ptolemies, which were part of Alexander's crew.
Okay.
When Alexander dies, Ptolemy is supposed to take his body to Egypt, and then he rules over Egypt, which is why also Cleopatra's brother husband is Ptolemy.
Okay.
And this is it's our country that changes people weeks.
That was the priestess, right?
Yeah.
She was like, oh, it doesn't matter that all this bad stuff's happening because everyone loves it here.
Yeah. But really, Egypt is influenced by so many other cultures. It's not that they influence other people. It's that...
Yeah, but let them think that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's every culture is influenced by other cultures. Really. Really.
And then weeks passed, and now he found his Nubian friend, Kanisa.
Yeah, Tutor leads him there.
Mm-hmm. She's in a tomb. And everyone's like, oh, you're in a tomb.
An empty tomb.
But it's nobody's tomb.
Yeah,
but it's nobody's tomb because the tomb has already been raided. So I'm like, it is someone's tomb.
It was someone's tomb.
So
now their tomb is...
But it's okay now that it's been already defiled so they can stay there.
Okay.
Like, what? Logic.
You're in a tomb. Oh, it's an empty tomb. Oh, okay.
At first it was like, it's nobody's tomb. So I was like, oh, it's just empty. But no, it belongs to someone.
Yeah, we didn't grave rob, I swear.
Yeah. And then he's like, oh, I learned everything about survival from you, and I haven't seen you in like 10 years. And I was like, you learned everything about survival when you were 5. And you remember all of it?
Yeah, I don't.
Do you remember things when you were 5?
I don't know how old I was when I remember things.
And so they're like talking about her, and then of course she's in the tomb, she can hear them.
Yeah.
Like, you whisper so loudly. And then we get that it's okay to, as long as it's looted. Also, I put, this is some lazy writing on here, because at the end of the chapter it says, she told me and I understood. And then we go into
him being a Medjay.
Yeah.
I mean, Medjay. Damn.
Because she's like, yeah, you need the Medjay. And he's like, what is a Medjay? Like, he doesn't even know. He's really heard of it. Aya is like expert level, I guess. She read a book in Alexandria and was like, I know. Why don't you know? This is where we get the old ways are working together for the gods, and the new ways, which are people in Alexandria, they want wealth and power. And so the Medjay are the old ways, and so we have to destroy that in order to get wealth and power. Hence why people are after them. So she's like, you are a wizard, Bayek. And he's struggling with being a protector of Egypt and not just Siwa, because he's like, yeah, my dad's a protector of Siwa. That's fine. That's what I'm like born for. And she's like, no, as a Medjay, you are protector of all of Egypt. And he's like, what?
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
It's a lot for one person. You like to work alone, don't you, Bayek?
Yeah, it's a belief wasn't something you carried in your blood. You need conviction. There is a Medjay in Elephantine, and they say that he's a pretender. He's not a real Medjay, and so that would be a place where they would go. However, side quest, because Kensa is looking for Mena. So we gotta help her first before we can
Yeah.
continue on our quest. So now he goes back to the high priestess, knowing that he is destined to be a Medjay, and she's like, now that you've gotten that information, Medjay provide balance, justice, and equilibrium. They follow the principles of Mat, and they have a symbol of an ostrich plume. And Bayek's like, oh, so weird. I've been picking up these bird feathers all over the place.
I'm so attached to ostriches.
Yeah.
They're my favorite animal too. Like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
I can't believe
Like,
all the
that's a big
stars
freaking
aligned.
feather. Like, what kind of, how are you carrying that around? So the 5 of them, meaning Aya, Bayek, Tuta, Kensa, and there's one more person. They go looking for Mena.
Yeah, they go to Minna's camp where they discover her scout Nika is imprisoned and being tortured.
And there's this other guy. His name's Mart Maxta, and he is the creepy eye guy that crawled through Bayek's window when he was 5. They are arguing about who's going to save Neka because Neka's brother is there. That's the 5th guy.
Yeah, okay.
And right before they're about to go in, they hear a scream. And that scream is him being tortured?
I guess.
Or they don't explain where the scream came from.
I don't know what that was.
They decide to wait until night, and they're going to take out the sentries who do little bird calls. And it's like, then mimic the bird calls.
That's what I thought they were going to do. They're like, listen, they do like, they call a bird and then they
respond.
They respond. So I thought we were just going to mimic it, but they never do.
Yeah, because this guy does a bird call, because he comes out to pee forever
by this guy. And it says taking a piss, which is the most British thing ever. Yes. I was like, this guy's definitely British. He's taking a piss.
But he's like taking the longest piss ever.
And like, he's looking straight ahead, but if he looks to his left, he'll see
Bayek
and then it looks to his right, he'll see the other group.
and Tuta, yeah.
So like, he gets suspicious, but he doesn't look to his left or his right.
But the plan is foiled by just a guy that has to pee, because he's like, I don't hear anything for a while. Let me do the bird call. And it's just like, reply.
Do the bird call
and then
back.
he would have gone back in and your plan would have been fine. But
I don't understand.
So Tuta and Aya are getting the chariot together to do something, escape, I guess. But because the bird call didn't happen, the guy yells, and so people come out, and now Minna and Maxta jump on a chariot, and so Bayek's like, bro, I'm so good at charioting. Like, let's jump on this.
This made me think of you and your struggle.
I'm so awful at it.
Not Canon Bayek, who's pro chariot. What the hell? Okay, how was he doing chariot stuff before
this? The only training that his dad gave him is what it is.
Chariot training? I need you to do errands. I need you to go drive early. You go pick up stuff from a town over. Here's a chariot.
And so there's a total of like 7 dudes, which...
They did manage to get the guy out of being tortured, though.
Yes.
They're on their way back when
he's like, I want to kill him, and
they're like, no, you're
girl's
tortured.
Like, no, you're tortured.
We're like 4 people, and there's like a bunch of camps, which would not deter you in a real Assassin's Creed game.
No.
1 person versus 30? Let's go.
And so they're chariot racing, and Bayek's the boss at it, and so he's able to get close enough where they like knock the other chariot over. They like hit him with a bow. And the chariot then like rumbles, and then they
shoot a bow at the tires, Indiana Jones style,
and they
topple over.
Bayek ends up cutting off the horses, and they're looking at the 2 guys, and they're looking back at them, but they're dead.
But they're dead.
Yeah, he's like, oh dang! So when they fell, the guy got hit by the other side of the arrow or something like that, like rolled on it. So it's like, that's just very anticlimactic.
You just rolled on an arrow?
Yeah. He got impaled by an arrow that was already in the cart.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So they did.
They made it, though.
Back to Bayan. We are now with Haman and Sobaset, which I totally forgot were previously in the book. Because I was like, blind guy. So there's a blind boy, which is Sebaset. And then there's an older man. And they're in Erdtree. They also talk about Herman being an ancient, which they don't explain. We also find out that before Bayan left Alexandria, he went to the coffin guy from the library. He went to his house and was like, hey wife of coffin guy, is your husband okay? And she's like, he's dead.
Oh yeah.
And he's like, oh, did he die from coughing? And she's like, no, he was killed by a bunch of thieves. And they took a scroll. And so he knows that that's Raya.
Mm.
So Raya had one of the order killed. So now he's going after Blind Guy and his...
And his thrall.
Yeah, but Blind Boy is 20. And...
Is thrall the right word? Is that too vampire?
That's a little too... Well, because the blind guy... No, because the blind kid would be the thrall. It's like a servant.
Servant, yeah.
So
I've never heard thrall used other than in terms of vampires, so I don't know.
Like medieval.
My little boy slave.
Yeah, the blind boy is 20. I was like, that's not a boy. And so Haman
still kind of a boy,
took him in because he was doing like the card trick, like the table thing of like...
Oh, with the ball?
Yeah, with the ball trick.
Fun.
Under
Blind?
Blind.
Damn, I'm impressed.
He's got some like daredevil stuff going on.
He's more interesting. Can we learn more about him?
Yeah. And he's doing the cup trick on the streets, and so he's like, "Hey, come hang out with me, and I'll train you as a Medjay." And so
the cup trick was just so cool. He just had
really
to
good, impressive.
You want to be an assassin?
Yeah. Well, so Bayek
really
sneaks
cool
into the
card
house because he's going to do the same thing to him that they did to the translator, and then he's like, "Blind boy heard him come in," and so they have a little scuffle. Because then, this was awful. I'm like, how are you even a Medjay?
What?
The older guy.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know how that goes.
He sucked.
He does suck.
So the blind guy had a knife against Bayek's throat, but then he ended up like wiggling out of it, and then pins the blind kid to the table with the knife, and is able to take out the Medjay.
Man, yeah.
And then he's like, "Oh, I have work to do." I'm like, oh, gross. Then we have the rat bull torture.
Yeah, I've never heard of this torture technique before.
Oh, I have. It's medieval. It's awful.
I mean, I've heard of like having a way to have rats bury through your skin.
Yeah.
But like putting a bowl on somebody's stomach with a rat in it.
That's how they do it. Is the bucket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Put hot coals on it.
Because you heat up the bucket, the rat tries to escape from the other way. It's a medieval torture device.
Okay.
It's gotta be older if it's in this book, but it's awful because they'll just eat through you. But he cuts his stomach first, so there's like a way for him to get in.
Oh, gross.
Yeah, and so
I'm glad they didn't describe that.
Also,
happening.
is Bayek the father? Does he have a family?
I hope not.
Yeah, I was like, people like this should not
exist.
Yeah. So he talks to, he has him in like tied to a chair, and he's like, oh, the blind kid won't, like, he's not going to talk. He's like, me torturing the blind kid is to get you to talk.
Yeah.
And so he tells Bayek that they are the last. And then, of course, he tortures the kid. Not a kid, because he's 20. And then he tells him about Sabu and Bayek. Which I'm like, why are you telling him this? Like, he's just going to kill you both?
He
and
even
then
says that.
Friends.
Like, that's like the end of the chapter. He's like, I mean, I know they're going to die anyway, but I'm just going to tell you.
Yeah. Quicker death, but then you're going to kill your friends.
Yeah, maybe it won't be like the tunneling rat. Maybe we'll just stab him instead.
In the eye is what he does. And then weeks later.
Oh, it's a ward. That's what he calls him. The blind guy.
Because he took care of him.
Yeah, he's like,
he adopted him.
There's shame in himself for failing his calling for the sake of his ward, whom he knew would die anyway once he had disclosed the last Medjay's whereabouts. So he knew anyway. Both of them are dead.
So weeks have passed, and now we're back in Thebes. They tell us that the other guys that were sleeping, they just left there. So it's like when you kill the boss and like everyone else is gonna just disperse. I'm like, that's never good because they're gonna come back to try to get revenge.
Maybe.
Always take out the whole camp. And then we find out the Medjay in Elephantine is not an imposter. It's your father.
So we gotta go get him.
And then we have like the worst part of the book right now.
What?
Tuta's being followed.
Yeah, so
Tuta's like the only character I actually cared about in this whole story.
He's the only one I cared about. I thought that they killed the father, so I was really surprised.
Just knocked him out. She tells the mom that.
Yeah, but I thought she was lying.
The mom was like, "You should have killed him."
The mom was super weird when she was eyeing Aya and was like, "So you knocked him out, huh?" And she's like, "Yeah, I knocked him out." And it's like, Yeah, I should have killed him.
You should have killed him.
And I thought she did, so I thought she was lying. I thought she was trying to be nice.
No, because it was the whole thing of like, we have never killed anyone yet.
But they definitely, I guess they haven't.
Because that was like a huge struggle of like, oh, I just knocked people
Weren't they
out.
shooting the people in the chariots?
Well, because Bayek doesn't actually kill Minna. It's Minna impales himself on the...
On whose arrow?
I think it's the Nubian girl.
Oh, okay.
But it's his fault he died.
Killed anybody yet.
But he didn't actively kill them, I guess. He passively killed them?
He passively killed them.
So Tuta's being followed and his dad shows up. And he's like, I know your mother and sister are here. And so he's like...
Well, he tried to trick him first. Tudor decides to play like the, Dad, I missed you. Daddy. And I've been doing scams and stuff. And so his dad's like, okay, yeah, meet me here at this time to do more scams. Because Tudor is excited after that chariot chase. He's like, life's worth living. I'm doing important stuff now.
Yeah, he's like, we're going to go do
We're going to go do more stuff.
He tells his father that he's living in the tomb where the Nubians are.
So... He does not go to see do his dad's scheme where he told him to meet him. Mm-hmm. So his dad is like pissed off in this town yelling.
He's in like the poor sector, which he knows that it's like where he was in other towns. So he's like yelling, trying to find Tuta and the mom and the sister. Mm-hmm. And so Tuta's like, oh, I'll have to, like, to save my mom and sister,
Tudor's choice was to just approach him instead of running the other way. Yeah. Which was a bad decision because Tudor got killed.
He stabs him.
He stabs him.
And everyone is like, what the crap?
Yeah, everyone in the old town was like, what is happening? He's dying.
His kid, and then, like, the dad runs off, and then Bayek shows up.
Yeah, because he's like, where's Tudor?
Yeah. And so Tuta dies in front of him, and he takes the feather out of his bag, and he dips it in his blood as a promise that he will get revenge. And then he
follows the trail of the dad, who is breaking pots, but like picking them up. Yeah. It's just kind of weird. But the dad is crying. Don't feel bad for him.
He's like, turn around.
Yeah, turn around. Face your killer. And the dad's like, what?
Yeah, it's weird. He's like drunk and he's mad and he just killed his son and Bayek screaming at him as they're running through the city.
Yeah, he does eventually turn around and like throw something at him, and then they have this fight scene.
So it's Bayek's first kill.
Bayek does kill the dad.
He was no longer passively killing.
That was an act of killing. Mm-hmm. That was an assassination.
Yeah, he then takes the feather of the blood of Tuta and then wipes it in the dad's blood.
Yeah, didn't the like...
Which is like an homage to like the first game.
When he dipped the blood in Tudor, because you have all the, like the poor people watching this happen, and the poor people were like, what?
Yeah, that's weird. All right, Medjay. All right, so now that Tuta's dead, they all leave for Elephantine to the Temple of Khnum. And like Aya knows a weird amount about the Medjay because she read it in a book. And then everyone's like, how did my dad get caught? Like, that seems weird. He's a Medjay. Why would he get caught?
Apparently the Medjay suck.
Yeah, I know, right? Bayek has a dream about rats in a cave.
That was weird. Rat dream.
Yeah.
I don't know what the deal with that was.
In the game, he kind of has dreams, but then when you go and you kill people, then you're in this, like, other, like, worldly thing. It's the land in between, the land of the dead. You talk to the people that you're about to kill.
Oh, okay.
Which happens in other
Assassin's Creed, yeah.
Which I think I did not understand the rats in the cave.
I thought it was because of that torture sequence with the rat.
I don't know.
Maybe he was just having like
I think it's a warning, like the premonition, like they're coming.
The rats are here.
Because rats will leave an environment that's like
bad.
Like when there's flooding or fire and like when you see a bunch of rats go, get out. If the rats are running, get out.
Rats are stinky little creatures. They don't want to be here. Neither do you.
That was like in Indiana Jones, right? Where there's the fire and all the rats started to come in and they're like, oh crap. Get out. Because they'll freaking bite you too. And then he wakes up and there's a storm coming. It's a sandstorm. Speaking of rats.
What?
Bayek ate the rat.
He did?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't remember that.
So Bayek kills them, the blind guy and the old guy. And he eats the rat. I was like, oh.
Just takes a big chunk out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Eats like a corn on the cob.
Yeah. Oh, gross. No. And then
You know he's a bad guy.
gross. But I'm like, that rat was like scratching and like eating the kid.
It actually didn't eat the kid though.
No, because
The
he
rat,
took the coil off.
yeah, the rat stood strong and just started to get burned and still didn't eat the kid.
No.
It just screamed and like tried to go out the other side.
So Haman told him that they were in Elephantine, which is where we're gonna meet up. So we know that if he tells them it's an Elephantine, then it's a trap. That's what I put. It's a trap.
It's a trap.
So that makes it a little bit, because why would my dad get caught into they're an Elephantine. Buying company are in the sandstorm, and they're like, you know what? This would be a good cover for us to go sneak in and grab Dad. The prisoner is not his father, so they sneak into the building where he's in a pit, and then it's dark.
They see like two eyes looking back at him.
And he like tries to pull him up, and then he's like, well, that's not my dad.
It's just some old
Sabu,
crazy man.
He's crazy.
Yeah, some crazy old man.
It's a decoy. They fight their way out. His dad finally appears.
His dad is mad that he messed up the trap, which I don't feel like he has the right to be mad at his son for trying to go after him.
No. You didn't leave any instructions.
You didn't.
You didn't say, hey, stay here. I've got something important to do.
He's like, I'm going to reprimand you later. And I'm like, no, F you.
He says, you're dead, all of you, is what he says to them. I'm like, what?
Like, are you going to kill them? Sabu?
Dad's mad. Someone is hunting them. Sabu shoots into the storm, and he hits him because there's blood. And then
you have a
Bayek runs away.
But Bayek does the classic curse you pray the platypus with the Medjay. He's like, I'll be back.
That's true.
I'll come back and get you later. And then we have a time skip.
Many years later, because now we're in part 3.
Part 3.
So the whole point was that Bayek sucks at shooting, and so he's got to take many years to learn how to work a bow. And Raya's like, why don't you kill these people? And he's like, patience, Padawan. Like,
I got a bow.
I got to train. And Bayek also has to train.
Don't bring a dagger to a bow fight.
Yeah, but chapter 48 at the beginning is like many years later. Bayek's so pissed that he couldn't kill Sabu. He's like, why is he better than me? Like, he's like, I suck. And
got some self-esteem problems.
Yeah, Raya tells Bayek to hurry up. Bayek's he's got a group of street urchins. And so they sort of find Bayek. They're like, hey, there's this group of people living in this camp. So he's like, haha, I finally know where they're at. Bayek's in training after they find out Haman died. So like the dad is the last Medjay now, and he's like, well, I guess I gotta train you now.
Gotta have one more.
Start that training. It sounds awful. They don't go into detail, but it sounds awful.
Yeah.
It's like, I trained so hard. How do you train as a Medjay? Like, do you do the sword thing? Sword fight?
I'm assuming it's just combat training, like constant combat training. Although he didn't train him to sniff very well. That was the one thing he didn't train him. He has a bad, because Medjay are supposed to be able to like track with their nose really well, but I guess I don't know how you would train somebody to do that, like a dog.
Yeah. Here's a smelly
killer. He was so focused on combat that he never got around to smelling.
That becomes important when Bayek shows up again, and Dad's like, I smell him. He's like, what
are you talking about? Why are you sniffing the air? And he's like, this is why you're not a full Medjay yet, son, because you can't
and never will be.
Can't smell.
Bayek wants to marry Aya, because they're the three of them that have now been away from Siwa for years,
many years,
without giving any no information to his mom either. His mom's just been hanging out in Siwa without knowing where her son and husband are. Yeah. The protector of Siwa has been gone for years. But Aya ends up sending a message to her aunt because she was worried about her aunt. Mm-hmm. And then Aya finds out that her aunt's sick. So she's like, I got to dip. And Bayek... before that, he finds out about that. Bayek's like, hey, Aya, let's get married. And she says, no.
and she's
like, this is your life. This is not my life. Why didn't you ever ask me what I want? We've been away for years.
She thinks and knows that the dad doesn't like her, and she's like, he's only saying yes to the proposal because he wants me to pop out babies to create more Medjay. So because he's all of a sudden cares about the bloodline when he definitely didn't care about the bloodline in the beginning of the thing, because he was like, I don't want to train my son on how to sniff. That's weird. And then he got over it once he's the last one.
It's like, oh, sniffer time. But it's not.
But
the
it's not.
one skill you
we
need
have to teach him how to swing a sword around a lot.
Yeah, not very well though.
Boot camp.
So Aya's like, I'm dipping. He's like, I gotta tell my dad. And she's like, why? Why would you do that? That's so weird.
Yeah.
It's like, because you're leaving? It's like, all right, I'll tell him in the morning after you're gone.
Yeah, she's like, I don't want, because he's not going to let me leave.
Yeah.
That's what Aya's basically like, so I'm just going to leave, and you can tell him later, because I don't want to deal with that. So she dips. And then Bayek confronts his dad and was like, you know what? She's right.
Yeah.
You wouldn't let her leave, and you're kind of a piece of shit. So,
He's like, just make me imagine. Why are you waiting so long? It's been years.
It's been many years, according to part 3.
I mean, they didn't tell us how many years, though.
Too many.
And so his dad's like, I have to think about it. And then we're back to Aya. She's been riding. She sighs way too much. She's like,
I miss Bayek.
and then she's at the...
Bayek wouldn't make me sigh like that. Yeah, there was that whole thing
It
where
was so stupid.
she's like, I'm sighing and I hate it. And if I was with Bayek, I wouldn't sigh. Because he'd be like, sighing is stupid. Think about how cool sand is in the sky. And he'd be like, yeah, you're right, Bayek. And then we would kiss.
That's like exactly what she said. And then she notices these creepy men staring at her. And so, but she continues to sigh anyways. And
Bayek would
turns
be
out...
like, those creepy men were totally fine. And I'm just crazy and worried about it. And I shouldn't be sighing. Anyway, my horse is about to get stolen.
Yeah, there's these 3 guys. They're gross looking. And they talk about their teeth. And then I was like, this is where we get the rapey scene.
I was afraid of that too.
I was like, they're like, just give us a horse and we won't take anything else. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. She's like, F you. That's my horse. Yeah, I put, she kicks butt, but not enough because
Bayek has to save her.
Yeah, so she like knocks these guys in the watering hole and they're like, oh. I'm like, she would totally kick their asses. Yeah, but Bayek comes in and shoots one with an arrow.
2 lines that I hated from this fight scene with her. One was she was like, I wish Bayek was here to see me throw these guys in the water. And the second one was like, I bet they feel ashamed for being beat up by a girl.
Yeah.
Like, ew. No.
Aya deserves better.
She does.
Justice for Aya.
Anyway, Bayek shows up to finish the job.
Yeah, she's saved by a stranger with a bow. And it's like, no, duh, it's Bayek. Come on, you think it's going to be Bayek? It's a stranger. Who else could it be? And
her new boyfriend.
He's like, I'm a Bayek. She's like, really? Where are you from? Of the desert? What are you buying?
What are you buying?
And he's like, oh yeah, this is my bow. And she's like, that looks like a brand new bow, dude. He's like, you're really observant. Which will come apparently important later, because being observant, which he wasn't observant because the aunt tells her, or the neighbor's aunt tells her. I'm like, observant. That's a bullshit. And then we're back to Bayek. His dad says, you're reckless, you're impetuous, you're driven too much by what's in here and not enough by what's up here.
You're perfect. You're exactly what we need for the Medjay. Here's a medallion.
Bayek then says, peace out. I'm going back to Siwa. His dad then gives him the medallion. It's like the final test.
The final test is like what, getting assaulted and then being like, F you, I'm leaving.
Yeah.
And then he's like, perfect, you passed.
Stood up to me, finally, you passed.
But you can't sniff.
And then, he's here.
You can smell him. He's stinky.
2 things.
I smell new bow.
2 things came at once. The sound of an arrow, and my father hurling us both to the ground.
Dude, I don't know if I can do sound effects.
I'm gonna do one.
Okay.
And so he falls to the ground, and then they fight. So I was like, you smelled him? Reminds me of Ducky from Land Before Time. You smelled me? Oh. Sabu's been hit. Then the dad gets hit by a second arrow. It's like in the arm. Bayek throws his knife and hits Bayek off of his horse.
That's really cool.
I was like, dang,
that's badass.
That's a hard throw,
And
dude.
Bayek was pissed.
He's like, "Whoo!" I was like, it
I should
didn't.
train more with knives. I'll be right back.
Many
Dang it.
years later. That's a new knife you got there, isn't it?
Now I shoot knives out of my bow.
It's like there's a sword fight and then there's an intermission.
Yeah.
And then they're all so tired, but they're all also bleeding. So he's like, if I bleed less than him, maybe he'll tire before me.
Make him bleed more. They're
And
so
then-
sure they're not going to win this fight, but
Yeah.
they're definitely winning this fight.
Yeah, and then Sabu's like, oh, someone paid you, huh? We could pay you more. And this is where you get the,
Yeah.
I do it for the love of killing. Not for money.
And I don't
He's
think...
definitely not getting paid at all.
Yeah. And it's weird to pull the I'll pay you more. I feel like that's kind of a dumb coward's move.
Yeah, and then Bayek just starts fighting like a crazy person. And his dad's like, you're gonna die. So he pushes them in the water. And then Bayek gets carried away on the stream.
Bye-bye.
But not before.
Goodbye.
He sees Bayan standing over his dad and then stabby, stabby, poke, poke.
Yep.
Impales him into the ground, but he's not dead yet.
They do have a little conversation before he dies.
Aya's back in Siwa, and she thinks her aunt is dead because she goes to her house and there's all these like candles, smell like candle things.
Okay, so I thought first they pull the thing like, oh, her aunt's dead, and that's what she's smelling because she's like
Oh yeah, it's
with
so
the
bad.
kerchief. Okay,
Yeah.
so Bayek freaked out because he saw that Bayan had Aya's like
scarf
scarf,
around
and
his
so he's
wrist.
like, "What'd you do to Aya?" And
Yeah.
it turns out that she just kind of gave it to him as like a thanks for saving my life or
Yeah.
whatever. Anyway, when she went back to the house, she's like, "Man, I wish I had this because this house is stinky."
Which is not a misdirect because Aya's not dead. So
Yeah.
but he could have kidnapped her, but that's not his thing. He doesn't kidnap.
Or yeah. So I thought, one, the aunt's dead and it smells like corpse in there.
Yeah.
Two, she passed the training and got the super smell
Both
ability.
Bayans and
Yeah.
who's a smelly?
I thought maybe she's overly sensitive because she's the only one who really cares about the smell of these lanterns.
Yeah.
Because when she finds out that her aunt's
These
actually
demon
staying
lanterns.
next door with her friend.
Yes.
Um,
And her aunt is sick, and so the priest came in and was like, "You got demons, girl.
red demons.
Let's put these smelly candles in here to air out your house to get rid of the demons while you're next door."
Just light a bunch
Recovering.
of candles everywhere, different smells. And she's like to the neighbor, "How do you stand having all of these, how this oil burning?" And she's like, just get used to it. So I thought Aya was being a little bit like sensitive,
Well, she was, but
but she closed all the demon
yeah,
candles.
she's like, get these demon candles. Aya does the rounds in Siwa. She goes and tells everyone her story multiple times. She's like, "Oh, I saw my best friend."
She
I was
tried-
like, "Bayek's your best friend. What are you doing?"
Not anymore. Tried to tell her aunt's friend because she was a gossip. So she's like, maybe if I tell her, she'll like spread the message and I won't have to repeat myself a bunch of times.
Yeah, and then she goes to see Bayek's mom, and he's like, "Oh, so he's grown up?" And she's like, "Yeah, Bayek's pretty grown up." And she's like, "No, I was talking about my husband."
I was surprised when Aya walked in and she was like, it's kind of rude of her not to invite me to sit down. And
Yeah.
she just started to grill me like, what the heck?
Like, you've been gone for years, girl.
Yeah.
So Aya goes to see the old lady from the beginning who knows all the things, and she's like, "You knew what was up the whole time." And she's like, "Why do people keep saying that?" Like, I don't know that. And then
not that
Aya
smart.
starts to feel ill. She's like, "Oh, I just don't feel right."
I thought she got poisoned by those candles.
No,
like it was
got
the
parasite.
priest. Yeah, she's got parasite.
And then she shows up and Bayan's in her house. She's like, "Hey, dude from the watering hole." And then we get Bayan and Sabu's last moments where Bayan's like, "You were a worthy opponent."
Yeah. I
I'm like,
mean,
cool.
awesome.
Bayek,
He's like, don't kill my son. He's like, oh, I have to. So
I have to.
sorry.
It's the bloodline. Everyone dies. Bayek was pulled out of the water by an elderly couple. He's been out for 4 days. Bayan gives Aya the creeps. So she goes back to Bayek's house. Oh,
Yeah, he like he like interrogates her kind of.
yeah. She's like, "Oh, let's have dinner."
And so, but he's giving off bad vibes. But I mean, he just really asked her questions. He doesn't really do anything.
That's true. He's like, I don't get why he's so nice to her, but he's such a D-bag to everyone else.
I don't know either.
That's weird. He's like, oh, I saved this girl.
Well, he knows that she was part of their camp.
Yeah.
Right?
He knows who she is.
He knows who she is, but so he didn't really get a lot of information out of her.
I don't think he knew who she was when he saved her. But
later
he finds out because the neighbor spills everything. Bayek learns that Aya and Bayan are both in Siwa, so he's like, oh, I got to get to Gittin. I got to go save the people.
How long was he with the old people for?
He's only there for like 4 days. Because he wasn't, they're like, oh, we're traveling. He's like, oh, take me with you. And then, yeah, he wasn't with them for very long. Then Bayan and Aya have dinner together because he's like, oh, I'll meet you up later. She's like, yeah, let's have dinner. And that's when he's like, you're observant. I'm also observant. But he's not, because this is where we find out that the stupid trope of Aya passing out and not feeling well is that she's pregnant. I'm like, can we not?
That's stupid.
Could we not? Could we just, like, some people don't even know they're pregnant.
Yes, true.
Actually, a lot of people don't know that they're pregnant right away.
Yeah, I've seen, what was that one show where...
I didn't know I was
pregnant. I didn't know I was pregnant, and then they just, like, give birth in a bathtub, like, and they're like, oh, no.
On the toilet? Yeah. And they're like, oh, it's a baby. But anytime a girl is sick, must be pregnant.
We're not allowed to be sick. Dying or we're pregnant.
Yeah. Bayek is back in Siwa, and so he sneaks around to Aya's house. It's all dark, and he's like, uh-oh. Something's weird here. So he goes next door, and Aya's there. And she's like, yeah, that guy's here. And they know that he's from the Order, too. Like, he'll tell them that. Which I'm like, that was my... So, the two things that downgraded this for me from a 3
to a 2?
Yeah, was Aya's pregnancy. Because I'm like, I hate when they do that stuff. And the fact that Bayek and Aya are going to find out about the Order before the game even begins. And then in the game, they're like...
What's the Order?
What's the Order?
Nice. They forgot.
I'm like, I'm sorry, but the Order killed your father. And you don't know what they are? This is what happens when the book comes out before the game.
Yeah. Or somebody didn't get a good, like, transcript of what the game's about.
We are, this is the battle. Bayan tells Bayek about the baby.
I zoned out for this, so please take over.
They're at
when Aya passed out, I too passed out.
Yeah, so Aya was like, oh yeah, Bayan went by your mom's house. And Bayek's like, what the crap? And so she's like, oh, he won't kill her because he wants you to be there for it.
So don't go over there.
So he of course goes over there right away. Yeah. And Bayan's just sitting there and he's like, where's my mom? And mom's like in the back sleeping or something like that.
Weird to sleep when there's a guy at your house.
Yeah. And so they're gonna battle it out. Both Bayek and Aya are fighting this dude. And then the mom comes up and just stabs him in the back. Because she also stabbed that guy in the back when Minna like came into her house.
That's true.
So that's the whole point of the Minna story, was that the mom is a secret killer. But also we knew before at the beginning of the story that the Medjay's wives also have some training. So
yeah,
I'm like, I didn't need any of that Minna story.
No, that was weird.
It was a weird misdirect. So the mom kills Bayan, and then he has this weird deathbed confession where he tells them everything about the Order and Raya.
And I respect that, so let me just...
There's a scroll with your name on it.
Everything, and watch out for Raya. Probably gonna send more people to kill you. Anyway, goodbye. Ugh.
And then the epilogue is that Bayek goes and kills Raya.
Yep, that's pretty much it.
Like... So he's already killed someone from the Order before the game even begins.
And then just forgets, I guess,
and
before the game starts.
And then just forgets. And then kills them all because they killed his son. What's the Order? What's this thing? Yeah, there's a secret order, the Order of the Ancients, and kills one of them already. I was like, what?
Right, that's the end of the book.
That's the end of Now You've Assassin's Creed Origins Desert Oath. Oath. What is the oath? Like, I will be a Medjay?
I guess. There was a scene where he's like, I think I know who I am now, and he doesn't. It's just,
Oh, when he trains to be the Medjay?
Yeah, he's like, well, now I have purpose, because now I'm the Medjay.
But he had purpose before, because he was going to be a protector anyways, and he was okay with that.
Yeah, and
And then
so
they're like, now you have to be the protector of all of Egypt. And he's like, well, hold on a minute.
in
I
like
didn't sign
part
up for
3
this.
where he's like, I think I've changed. I have a goal now, and I was like, you had a goal. Nothing has changed.
Yeah.
It's literally the same. You're the same guy.
Yeah.
You killed somebody, and your personality did not change. You're like the same. So that was it. I would not recommend reading it at all.
So far we're 3 for 3 for these Assassin's Creed books.
Yeah, we're gonna take a break from Assassin's Creed for a while.
In the world of Assassin's Creed.
But I have a manga for next time.
And what are we reading?
Elden Ring, The Road to the Erdtree, Volume 1.
And who is the...
By Nikachi Tobita.
All right. So we're going back to Elders.
No, it's different. Elden Ring is like Dark Souls.
Oh, well, what's the tree thing again?
Erdtree? It's different.
What was that tree in the other one we read?
I don't...
The history?
The history.
The Erdtree and the history. We're gonna have
This
to...
is not Elder Scrolls. This is Elden Ring.
Scrolls and Rings. All right.
See you next time.